Bye.
That sound good? So we need to open our meeting with the school choice public hearing, which we do every year. We're required to do that by law. I don't see that anyone in the audience has joined outside of our crew here. So that being said, I don't know if there's a discussion amongst the members of the committee on whether or not we want to, I guess, change our position from which we've held for some years now regarding school choice. Nobody has anything to say about it?
You're looking for a motion?
No, I'll call for one in a minute, but yeah, I mean, as far as we've gone over the years, tradition has it that we do not allow school choice at Halifax Elementary, and I currently support that position. So if there's a motion on the floor to continue that, then I'll take it.
Your vote would be to withdraw from school choice, and it must contain the reasons for withdrawal. Oh, I'm sorry. You can withdraw from school choice only if the school committee holds a public hearing.
What you're doing?
The actual vote is that you're withdrawing from school choice, if in fact that's the way you want to go.
I had a question about the kindergarten class that we have now. Is there any intention to allow school choice into that?
Kane, do you have any numbers for us?
For the kindergarten cohort?
Yes. Incoming, anticipated incoming, or the current cohort?
I guess for both, I'd ask the question.
Okay.
So what we have for the incoming that we're predicting, we're seeing that right now it's in the low 70s, which is actually a pretty good number. It's already higher than the numbers that we have now. But then we would also, taking a look at move-ins, we've had move-ins, that have occurred over the last, few months or so in terms of the kindergarten numbers, but I think they're still kind of hovering around the mid 60 range.
Okay, so that being said, that's not any different than it usually we've seen in the past. So it could spike to 90 and
right.
So, okay.
Yeah. And even now it's difficult to kind of tell because
everything's shut down.
Everything's shut down. So it's kind of hard. The number that we had is, going off of a month or at least a month past. So I'm assuming that we would have gotten more as, we get closer to the date. But as of right now, that number's in the low to mid 70s.
Okay.
All right, so then I need a motion to withdraw from public school choice.
So moved.
I'll make a second.
Okay, all those in favor of withdrawing from school choice? Aye.
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 Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
He snuck in there.
Yeah, he did.
I don't want to let him know that we see him.
Don't play under the radar here, okay? So now that we've concluded our school choice public hearing, we can move on with our regular meeting. So first we have the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know if any and everybody has a flag, but I brought one in here just so I could do it. And I know Bob has one on his tree. So those of us who have one, I guess we should stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I take them all off. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America, and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Community patriotism, I love it. Even in quarantine. Okay, well, I don't see anybody that we need to acknowledge or schedule for visitors, except for Bob, cut it out. You have to behave yourself. So we all got sent the minutes from March 2nd. Has everybody had a chance to look them over?
Yes.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the regular minutes from March 2nd.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So I had asked in the email when I originally got the agenda, and I apologize if it got buried in my email somewhere because I'm sure we're all swamped with them at the moment. It seems to be the choice method of communication. But I didn't know what we were doing about signing the warrants, Christine. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you.
It's all set.
We made use of the signature person.
Okay.
And we had Bob's electronic signature, but the town is not quite at the phase where they're ready to accept that. So Bob did come in and sign the warrants for us today.
Oh, great.
And we had 9 warrants totaling $384,529.34.
Excellent. Thank you, Bob, for doing that.
Yay.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. I don't have any correspondence and reports at this time. I don't know if anyone else on the committee has been had any kind of official correspondence with anybody. There is something I want to discuss, but I think it'll fit somewhere under these the lunch situation here, or maybe under new business. But other than that, I think I'm going to hand it over to you, Jill, to talk about the different things that we need to vote on, because I believe Plimpton's already done it in terms of just allowing you some movement without, in these times, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes. So in the agenda, there are a series of discussions and potential votes for your consideration. And we changed the language a little bit so that it reflected each of the towns. It was voted by Silver Lake and by Plimpton. The first one, if you'd like me to read them each, Summer, and then wait for discussion, would that make sense? Or would you like me to give a little background on food lunch, free and reduced lunches?
I think we all have a pretty good handle on it, I'm sure, unless somebody wants to talk about it a little bit further, but I think we all get the general. Alice is like, for the love of God, no. So I think we all are kind of aware of the situation that we've all been put in and the district's been put in with the with, you know, everything that's going on. So I'm okay with just taking a vote, but understanding what we're voting. Basically.
Sure.
Very brief.
And since probably the last time we discussed, there have been new, loosening to an extent, the fact that even though we're not 50% free and reduced lunch, we're going to be eligible for some reimbursement. So the first one is discussion and vote to allow the Director of Food Services and/or the Superintendent of Schools to accept donations of food and money to support our free and reduced lunch efforts with the approval of the chairperson of the Halifax School Committee. So this will, great.
Bob, can you do me a favor? Do you know how to mute yourself? Because I think you're causing some feedback here. Do you know how to do that, or are you going to like end the whole meeting if you try?
Mute myself?
Yeah.
I didn't say anything.
There's feedback, and I can see your little icons moving. So I think it's coming from you. That's a no. Never mind. Forget it. It's fine.
You're lucky I even have the speaker on. Oh, wait a
Okay.
minute. There's something down there. Let's see what this does. I can turn it down.
It's okay, Bob. Don't worry about it. You're fine. It's not that bad.
Oh, that's volume. That's not this. I give up.
All right. So Gordon moved. So we need a second, and then we can talk about it.
Second.
Okay.
Doid.
So I guess the only thing I want to talk about is some of the donations that we've received so far, like throughout the process while we've been doing this and stuff. So now I guess my question is, should I turn those over to you as the superintendent? Do we have the authority to distribute them as a committee, or what's the plan?
So donations should go through Megan Aaronholtz during this time. Because we also have to make sure that any donations are USDA approved.
No. I mean, like monetary or like in the gift card form. Like, I'm not talking about food itself.
So this would allow you to either give them to Megan or to me, and you could discuss them obviously through school committee, but what you just voted would be to allow us to accept without having to vote it each and every time we receive an offer. So for example, we've received 3 bags to put the lunches in at Silver Lake. And so prior to this vote, we would have to, each time we receive something, we would have to go through a vote in order to accept donations.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like
So do I need to repeat the whole thing to get a vote, or because it's been motioned and moved, is it okay for me to just say accept?
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, of course.
What happens if Halifax gets a donation of money or gift cards and then it goes to whomever? Does that mean it just gets distributed to Halifax residents, or would it go into a pot of Silver Lake?
That's a good question.
So right now, without discussing personnel matters, there is a need for direction from Megan Aronholtz that has been helpful. That would be up to you how you wanted to handle donations, and you would maybe amend your vote. But right now, what we've been doing is we've been operating out of the Silver Lake Middle School kitchen with Silver Lake Regional School District cafeteria personnel, getting the lunches ready and distributing the lunches to all of the schools, including Halifax, even though Halifax has a separate lunch program.
That doesn't really answer your question, though, does it, Allison?
Not really, no.
I guess she's saying, so say somebody approaches us when we're volunteering to hand out lunches and they, donate $50 and say, there's probably children in need in Halifax. Here's $50 to go towards helping a family in need. Do we, as a school committee member, then have to turn around and go bring it to you and Megan? And then it gets into either a Silver Lake pot, or does it get designated to go back into Halifax? Is that what you're asking, Allison?
Yes. Yes.
So if you wanted to only to benefit the Halifax families, you would need to keep it and vote it through Halifax. Otherwise, what you're saying here is that you're participating in this district-wide lunch initiative that allows us to provide free and reduced lunches in every community.
Why don't we allow each donor to earmark where they want it to go?
It's possible. Sometimes you'll get donations that are very open, that they just want it to go to free and reduced lunch. And other times people might be very specific, in which case it would have to go back to the school committee if it's specific.
Okay.
Okay.
So what we're saying here is you're voting to allow either the food services director or for me to accept donations for food and money to support the free and reduced lunch program.
Yep.
If it's not general like that, then that would have to be handled separately in a separate vote by the school committee.
Okay.
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 All right, so it's been, any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of allowing the director of food services and or superintendent of schools to accept donations of food and money to support our free and reduced lunch efforts with the approval of the chairman of the Halifax School Committee, say aye.
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 Abstentions? Is that everybody? We good?
I think there were 5 there.
All right. Okay, so the next one, Jill. So you want to read them or do?
I can read them. I have them in front of me if you'd like. Discussion and vote to allow the superintendent of schools to exceed the FY20 food service budget balance and other lines associated with supporting our free and reduced lunch efforts.
So moved.
Everybody, can I get a second?
Second.
Everybody understand that or need to discuss it?
I understand it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so the third thing is a discussion and vote to allow the Director of Food Services, with the approval of the Superintendent of Schools and Chairman of the Halifax School Committee, to create criteria in lieu of federal or state requirements and regulations to provide free and reduced lunch to students whose families become economically disadvantaged because of the current crisis.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Discussion and vote to allow the spending of funds to feed students who qualify under the criteria created by the Food Service Director and approved by the Superintendent of Schools and the Chairman of the Halifax School Committee, with the understanding that funds spent in this way may not be reimbursed by federal or state funds.
So moved.
Second.
Does everybody understand what that means? Basically says that we're going to do it even though we're not sure we're going to be reimbursed.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
No? Okay.
Yes, although we have reason to believe that we will receive some reimbursement.
Okay, everybody good? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Okay, discussion and vote to support the actions of the superintendent of schools to advocate for students to be exempt from high stakes testing required by federal and state legislation, including MCAS testing, for students to be held harmless due to the COVID-19 state of emergency.
Moved. So moved.
Second.
Everybody understand? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Can we make it permanent?
You never know.
Summer.
Yeah.
Summer at the Silver Lake School Committee meeting, I made a motion for the school committee to advocate the students be exempt from high stakes testing for this current year.
Okay, you want to make that same motion right now?
I'll make the same motion right now.
I love it.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Discussion and vote to support the actions of the superintendent of schools to advocate for federal and state reimbursement for feeding students during school closures due to the COVID-19 state of emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Do you want to make the same motion here, Gordon?
This one, I can if you want me to. It was just the MCAS that I was more concerned about.
Okay. Okay. I was just wondering about, I guess we can cross that bridge when we get to it if we need to, or we'll always back you up, so obviously. But we can cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay. Discussion and vote of support for the memorandum of agreements pertaining to the Halifax Custodians, Paras, and Teachers Association. Can I get a motion and then we can talk about it?
Make the motion.
Do we need to do them separately?
We didn't in other votes.
Okay.
We did it collectively.
Okay. I'm just curious out of for procedural reasons, but if we can do them collectively, that's fine.
I think the problem will be is if you disagree with one or more of the following and you want to parse them out.
Okay. Okay. Do I have a motion? I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bob moved it, I'll second.
Okay. Do you want to speak to them, Gordon or Bob, because you're on negotiations, or are we good?
No, I think it was pretty straightforward.
I believe the superintendent and our attorney try to get everything all set for us, so I think they're good.
Okay. All right. Is any further discussion on that? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I don't have any like unfinished business, new business, or future agenda items. If anybody else does, I just was curious what I talked about when we moved that first, took that first vote.
I do have a question about, and I'm not sure what's the right place to ask, is whether or not we'll have to incur costs for summer programs for students.
So the summer food in terms of free and reduced, again,
No, in terms of educational costs for students on either special needs or IEPs that weren't serviced that weren't serviced at this point in time into, the end of this year. Will we have additional costs for summer programs?
that would be an issue for special education to really speak to, and would depend on a case-by-case basis. The current remote learning plan speaks to the need to provide support for students and to honor IEPs, educational plans, and the fact that we are deepening and applying skills is intentional to help prevent regression for special education students and general education students, but is also an intentional design on our part to try to provide equity for all.
Okay, thank you.
Jill, can you mute Bob as the organizer of the meeting?
I can, but once I do, I won't be able to unmute him. He will need to unmute himself. So if he could.
Just wave or something, Bob. It's driving me nuts.
So Bob, what you can do is thumbs up or thumbs down. And if you have a question, if you go down to the bottom of your screen, if you, in the middle of your screen, you'll see a little pin or you'll see a microphone. And when you hit that microphone, you could mute yourself. Do you see that? If you hover over the middle or bottom of your screen, depending upon where it is on your computer.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm going to say it again in 2 seconds.
Okay. No, you're good.
We accomplished what people have been asking to do for years.
All right, so Bob is all set.
I'm sorry, I'm just giggling to myself over here. Next we have Mr. Beaudry. You're up to review the virtual learning plans.
Can you guys hear me okay? I had to unmute myself. So the remote learning plan, I just want to kind of go back and give Jill and Ryan a shout out because I think they've kind of been thrown into the fire here with setting this plan up. So they've done a tremendous amount of work. I can't even put it all together, but they've done an excellent job kind of keeping the teachers and the admin team kind of all in the loop. So just a big shout out to them for everything that they're going through and taking care of right now. So we've been working actually from the get-go when we were kind of waiting on what direction to go in and how long we were going to be out for. Brian and I talked to the union and kind of just made sure that everybody was reaching out and connecting with their families and making sure that we stay connected as early as possible So that's kind of the understanding that we made with teachers, and they did that on whichever platform they were comfortable with, whether it was Parent Square or email, or some were going on Zoom or even Google Meet. And that was kind of the understanding from the beginning. So I feel like our students were kind of pretty connected from the beginning of this whole ordeal. And as time has gone on and we've learned more from everybody, from the commissioner, from Jill and Ryan and other districts, I feel that we've been able to kind of tighten it up as time has gone on. Today, as you know, is the day that kind of we pushed towards the remote learning and a little bit more accountability. So it's been a little bit daunting, but I think everyone's been able to kind of jump in and kind of handle and do their part. What Brian and I have also done, we've taken every grade level. So it's hard because we have 7 grade levels that we're working with. So Brian and I will meet with them throughout the week to kind of discuss that plan that they're going through. And then they get it out. And I don't know if anyone has taken a look at the newsletters that we have. So they're each a little bit unique in every way. So what Brian and I do is once we get all 7 plans, we put them in one document together so that families with multiple students are trying to, look at everything together. It's in one place. Because I know today was the first day for my own children, and I had probably 20 emails from my 4 different children. So it was a little difficult for me to kind of navigate through that. So Brian and I kind of took that upon ourselves to kind of just pull it together and kind of streamline it a little bit. The other part that we're kind of working towards right now is trying to see those people that don't have classrooms and how best to connect them and make the best resources out of their skill sets or their department areas, like our behaviorist and our adjustment counselor. Those are some of the more tricky ones that Brian and I have been kind of working with and kind of navigating through. So, but all in all, I mean, the teachers have been really good with kind of jumping right in and collaborating. This is like, I think like Ryan had mentioned, it's like kind of first day of school all over again. But it's a lot, and it's everything that we're doing here is just making sure we're staying connected and checking in on families that don't have all the resources that they may need. So we are doing everything that we can to make sure we connect with every family and every student at AGS. I don't know if that helps. Do you want me to go through more with that, or go through each plan, or I don't know what you guys.
I mean, I don't have any specific questions. I see what comes home for my kids. I mean, I think it's pretty, I really don't feel like I have to do much in terms of I have to get on them to actually do it. But once I get on them to sit down and do it, I feel like they have a good idea. And that's, thanks to all the work that we've done in the classroom of teaching them how to navigate Google Classroom, teaching them, I literally just tell T-Bone, go check and see what you have to do today. And he's in 5th grade. So it's I don't really have to twist his arm too much because he already knows how to do it, which is great for me as a parent because I don't think I necessarily would, because that wasn't there when I was a kid, So I'm grateful that they already sort of had some knowledge on how to navigate it from the get-go without me having to really. And I know even at the high school level, Caroline's almost 100% self-sufficient in her regard. I just need to get on her to actually do it. But, so I think it's great that, he doesn't really seem to be struggling too much. So that's good. And I feel like there's enough communication between you guys and Ryan and Jill and, their teachers that if there is an issue, it's, I'm not waiting 3 days to get a response. So I don't really have much more to say other than that. And I told Jill earlier when we spoke that I've talked to some friends who have children in some of the surrounding districts, and they're not quite where we are yet. They're still trying to work out the kinks and figure out, all the kids might have a Chromebook, but now they're not ready to roll it all out yet. And so I think it's great that we're kind of right on target. I feel like there are some districts that are rolling it out today, like we are. Some more a little ahead of the game, but there are still some that are lagging. So I'm glad that we're at least not in that category.
Mm-hmm.
I think our middle and upper grades have always been pretty comfortable with Google Classroom. So that platform, I feel, is something that most of our teachers in grades 3 through 6 just kind of eased right into. It's the primary grades that I think they're the ones that the remote learning, I think, is a little bit more challenging. And I think it's the more that they can do with the virtual meetings and connect, I feel is a little bit more beneficial. Just from what I'm seeing for my own children, is they just want to see the faces of their teachers and just wave and say hello. So, and it's daunting for parents. I'm an educator, and my wife is an educator, and we struggle just to kind of with our 4 kids. So I can't imagine someone who's not in education to kind of go through kind of what we're going through. So anything that we can do to make it a little bit easier to navigate is kind of where we're at, because I think it's just reflecting on what we're doing, and it's pretty massive in the scope.
In the elementary level, are you just looking for participation? And, like when I looked at what my kids' teachers had assigned, there was a lot of work for a couple of the different subjects. I've had a couple of parents ask me, is it okay if they kind of pick and choose which ones would be best for their kids to do? Or are the teachers expecting them to try everything that they've assigned? I just don't know what to say to the parents.
That's a good question, Allison. I think looking at the plans, I feel that we're going to get feedback more so on a daily basis, because I think we'll have to tweak what we're offering.
Gotcha.
Because I like to, just my own personal preference, but I would like to see that there's something that there's a required. There's some grade levels that definitely took like, this is required, and then this is other components that are in addition to. And the required items were fairly basic. It was, practicing a math skill or do a reading assignment. So it was pretty basic and definitely what I seem to find manageable. But I think that we'll have to kind of look and talk with teachers this week about exactly what they're getting for feedback and what students are asking, because I have kind of seen there is a little bit of a discrepancy in terms of how different grade levels are asking for different types of work.
I think one good suggestion might be if the teachers, and I don't know if other teachers in other grades do it because both my girls are in the same grade, if they could maybe put it give some sort of sample pacing guide for what they would expect them to do each day. Yeah. Because it's, like just an example, I looked at my daughter's thing and it said, read this book, this book, this book, and this book. And I'm thinking, my kids can't read 4 books in a week. Like, then I went on, obviously, and like one book is like 6 Google slides and one book is, and so it's like not really a book, but they called it a book. And another one, it was like, watch these 3 videos. So I told Cameron to go upstairs and watch 3 videos. Well, the first video was 43 minutes long. So I was like, oh, wow. She's probably not going to read all 3. So like I've been doing with my own students is giving like a pacing guide. Like, these are all the things I want you to do over the week. But if you want a sample of how I think it should roll out, Monday, do this, Tuesday, do this, Wednesday, do this. So I don't know. And it's a lot of work. So I get it if the teachers aren't, able to do it, but that might be a good suggestion to help ease parents' minds of what exactly is expected every day.
Yep. That's a great suggestion. Because I think that's kind of, I know we're not doing 6 hours of work throughout the day here, or even the recommendation that it's half the day, but it's a lot. Even if you look at 3 hours a day, that is,
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
it's a good amount.
So, Kane, are the teachers sharing the responsibilities? Like one teacher is setting the assignment for math, the other one ELA, another one science, another one social studies, and using the ability to just assign a lead teacher for each one of those subjects?
I mean, my guess, Gordon, is that it would be set up that way, but I mean, specifically, I'd have to go and ask each of the grade levels how exactly they were planning it out. My understanding is that they're collaborating like we are now, you know, through virtual meetings online, and I think they all kind of take a part to it, is my understanding. But I couldn't speak, you know, on specifics on who has what grade level, especially in the primary grades where they kind of share everything, and probably a little bit different as opposed to 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I just didn't know because I've seen what happens when all the work is assigned by the teachers and they're trying to correct it, and all the responses come in at all different hours from the parents. So I was just trying to look out for our teachers to make sure that the amount of responses that they're getting is, you know, they're setting limits to what they're doing. So I didn't know if sharing responsibilities was a way for them to limit the amount of interactions necessary.
So the plan and our meetings have encouraged people to collaborate and form teams, and to also help create consistency across the schools and grade levels and departments. So it's definitely encouraged, but it is our first week under this, under these new expectations. So I would suspect maybe some changes in the way that people maybe approach their second week based upon feedback from this week.
Brian, you look like you want to say something. Are you trying to say something? Or are you not talking to us? Because you're muted if you're trying to talk to us.
I'm sorry, me?
No, Brian looks like he's trying to say something.
Wow. Sorry, I can't see Brian.
I can't see him either, and he's muted, right?
He is muted. I put the grid view on my Google Chrome because I've been teaching my classes this way, and now I can see all my students once I installed the grid view, so I can see all of you at once, which is kind of neat. But I can't tell if he's trying to say something or if he's talking to somebody else.
He's got 3 little ones at home. I'm sure he's probably muted.
You hear me now?
There he is. Yes.
All right. Kane, did you touch on how we're starting, especially this week, to compile at least a list from teachers on who we're not in contact with, or starting to, you know, really check in on who's not doing any remote learning, so we can try to get in contact with those people, whether it's our adjustment counselor or whether it's by Kane or I contacting them, calling them to try to get them to start to get some work done. Did you touch on that, Kane?
I didn't. Not yet. That was kind of something that we shared out. I think we started at the end of last week to kind of have teachers kind of give us an idea of who's participating, who we haven't heard from, who's doing some of the work, and then also who have we heard nothing from. So I think that was that list is growing, but I assume as this week gets kind of a little bit deeper, we'll have a better idea of as to those numbers and where they're at.
So I'm thinking now that you're talking, what is that going to mean for a student that does nothing, frankly, for remote learning or very little? How are we, I mean, have we even thought about or discussed how we're going to approach moving that student forward? Because we're talking about like half of the school year that they're going to be missing.
Are you asking us?
I guess
I don't want to retain anyone.
Yet.
I don't want to retain anyone.
Yeah, Summer, this is Ryan. It's definitely something that people, teachers are asking about, just in terms of assessing when students would be, how to assess the amount of work they've done over the closure. And so one of the things that we think about is we have to look at when the closure ends. So if we all go back on May 4th, we'd have an opportunity to meet with kids and talk to them, and then there'd still be, 7 weeks of school, versus if perchance we don't return back, it would require a different assessment of, the work that kids did and figuring out why they weren't able to do it or what the obstacles were. So we're really waiting to see when the return point would be, and then we would make a detailed plan. And I think we kind of spoke to that a little bit in the remote learning plan, talking about kids' effort, inquiry, a little bit of flexibility, but everyone's asking that question and we're tuned into it. We just got to see when the return date is, because if we go back May 4th, it would be we'd have a much better opportunity to connect with kids and talk to them and families about the work over the closure, versus potentially not having an opportunity like that. So we'll make a plan based on when the return date is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate you addressing it. I just I can imagine it's a very complex issue that we do not have an answer for yet, but I know that it's kind of on everybody's, in the back of their mind, like, what if? But there's no sense in, entertaining hypotheticals right now. We need to kind of tackle the issue that we have in front of us, and that's what we're doing. And so I'm grateful that we're at least giving these kids an opportunity to, continue to learn, or at least be at a sustainable level until we can move forward. So I guess I'm a little bit ahead of myself, but I just want to, just I thought at the time. Yeah. I guess we'll know better at our next meeting. But thank you for that answer. I appreciate it.
Sure.
So does anybody else have anything to address in regards to discussing virtual learning? No?
I have a question.
Bob, you
probably my question is probably for Ryan. Could somebody send me the instructions for how to get on for KES? Because my daughter has been unable to sign on for my granddaughter for second grade over there. She got the Chromebook delivered, but she has been unable to sign on. I think what I need the instructions sent to me, because she's not able to figure it out.
No problem. I will send you, there's an email. It's called distancelearning@slrsd.org. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And they have, particularly today, they have done a great job responding to all of the challenges that families have. And it's a team of 7 or 8 people on our tech team, and they've been doing great work just to be able to support families, not to mention all the Chromebooks they got out. So I'll send you that, Bob, and then you'll have it and you can get the support that you need. And you should be good. I'll send it right after the meeting.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I have noticed sometimes, depending on which computer, like, he won't try to log on, it won't let him for whatever reason. It must be whatever firewalls that Silver Lake has set up. So sometimes that can be an issue too, but hopefully you'll get it all worked out, Bob. So if there's no other discussion on virtual learning, I guess we'll hand it over to Christine for the financial. You're muted though.
Thank you. I remember after I spoke that I was muted. Well, hopefully this is something that you don't have to worry about with all the chaos going on. The financial for right now was the activities. There's nothing unusual that's happened within the budget. There are a handful of deficits totaling $1,400 that will be absorbed within the function codes within the budget. And then, as I think I mentioned this last month, that in special education, Right now, we have a surplus in contracted services and transportation. And once all circuit breaker funds that will be received, we're also expecting a surplus in special education tuition. So those areas are going along as we would expect based on the activity that's happening now. And then also in out-of-district vocational, we're expecting a surplus of $46,000. And that hasn't changed since last month. And I expect that's where we'll end up by the end of the year. I think, yeah, that's where I expect we'll end up for the end of the year. Are there any questions?
The only question I had is regarding the budget was if we got our numbers for out-of-district vocational for next year.
If we got our numbers for out-of-district vocational, what was the last part?
For next year.
For Halifax, we have one additional student so far, but the deadline has been moved to May 1st.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's still a work in progress. But that's, and I had built in, I think I had built in 3 slots. So we have enough if additional students to apply.
Okay. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Now, Jill and Ryan, I guess we hand it over to you. Ryan, you kind of spearheaded the student opportunity plan last time. I don't know if you want to take that now.
Sure. So just if you remember back to March 2nd, a much simpler time. Seems like seems like years ago, but we presented the student opportunity plan for Halifax, and one thing that did change. Jill and I were going to do a meet and greet as another way to collect information and input from stakeholders. Obviously, we had to cancel that due to the social distancing and other measures, but we did send out the survey, and a lot of the feedback from that involved increased staffing to support students' needs, as well as more programming for career and tech ed. So that was some of what our community said in terms of the plan. I presented this March 2nd, and then the committee decided, you guys heard the plan, and then what we need to do as a next step is just to vote the plan. And once it's voted, I just make that notation inside of the student opportunity plan for Halifax, and then we submit it to the state. They have moved the deadline. They didn't tell us what the new deadline is, but it's not April 1st. But the plan's already submitted. The only thing I need to enter anyway is just the date that the committee approves it. So if it is the will of the committee to approve the student opportunity plan at this meeting, then we could enter that date.
Okay, thank you. I kind of was, I don't want to say chuckling to myself, but I was. When I was reading it, and I was thinking to myself, okay, so here we are talking about, closing an achievement gap, yet they're cutting our Title I funding. So, okay. Great. Sounds like a plan. But yeah, I did read it, and it looks great to me. I don't know if anyone has any further input on it. But if everybody's okay with it and has read it, I guess I need a motion to approve the student opportunity plan presented by Assistant Superintendent Lynch.
I'll make a motion to approve. Hello?
Student opportunity plan?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the student opportunity plan as proposed by Mr. Lynch.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And thank you, Ryan, for putting that together.
You're welcome.
Next, we have an update on the COVID-19 emergency planning.
Sure, and we have a number of things to report back to you. First of all, thank you all for your support of the Student Opportunity Act plan. That will help us to move forward and to prepare for next year as best we can, and allow us to direct resources in areas that will hopefully help children who need support to help close those achievement gaps. One of the things that came out from the Department of Education recently kind of guidance as we've been going through this. And something that people may not be aware of, we are expected to pay our collaboratives. So, for example, North River Collaborative is one that we are a collaborative that we are still paying remote learning time, but it also allows us to take advantage of transportation for our free and reduced lunches. And that has been helpful because in some of our communities, for example, we had emergency personnel delivering those lunches to children because of the confidential nature of addresses and needing to be quarried and sorted. And in this case, we're able to free up some of our volunteers or our emergency personnel so that North River Collaborative will now be delivering those lunches for us. And we want to say thank you to all of our volunteers who continue to distribute lunches and our cafeteria workers who work with social distancing in mind and on different schedules and rotations. But just to let you know the reason for the switch over to the delivery by North River Collaborative. We're also expected to pay our out-of-district vocational tuitions and who also continue to work remotely. And as Christine mentioned, the deadline for non-resident Chapter 74 has been extended from April 1st to May 1st. So we'll have a little bit of a delay there before we know our total numbers. We thank you to Michaela Gill and Elliot Glass. They worked to secure protective gloves and masks for the fire departments and police departments in each of the towns. And they went in and they assessed what we had when we knew that there was a need. And Silver Lake Regional School Committee voted to support the donation of what supplies we did have that would be useful for our police and fire. We have worked with our administrative team, our technology department, our principals, our department heads, our coordinators to create a remote learning plan that I think is flexible enough and puts care as well as learning and accountability at the center. We have done a lot of work focusing on ways that we can be flexible and support learning and to provide opportunities for students with different needs to reach out and obtain that kind of support. And so I just wanted to thank the entire team for their hard work and helping also to roll out, for example, our tech team rolled out a number of on-time trainings for staff that may not feel as comfortable using certain technology platforms. So we encourage you that if something is not supporting your child in the days to come, or you need further clarification, to please don't hesitate to reach out to your child's teacher, guidance counselor, administrator, or even Ryan and I if you need additional support or information or would just like to discuss about a particular aspect of the plan. Again, I just wanted to note some of the people that helped to pull that together because it really was a team effort and we could not have done it without everyone. We also want to thank our school committees for their ongoing support and patience with us as we worked to turn this around as quickly as possible because we knew that there was a lot of uncertainty. And the last thing, we want to be a voice of support and routine and compassion. And we did not want to let too much time go by before we communicated those expectations to the community. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't, but I appreciate all you're doing. And I know it's a lot to think about. And there's things that I'm sure you didn't even think about that you're now trying to deal with. So welcome to Silver Lake, Jill. Are you liking your job?
Well, it's a great way to get to know people. And we've certainly felt supported. And there's a very strong sense of community. So we're grateful for that.
Yeah, my goodness. You and Ryan, geez, talk about really hitting the ground running. My goodness. Well, I appreciate everything that you're doing. And I also want to thank you for your patience with us because sometimes, I know just speaking for myself, I get very frustrated and I don't always have the most eloquent way of expressing that. So thank you for your patience with me and our committee as well.
Everyone has been wonderful. We can't thank you enough.
Awesome. Okay. Does anybody want to talk any further about emergency planning at this time, or are we okay? Good.
So do
I
you want an
am
update?
very comfortable with our emergency planning at the moment.
Okay, Gordon, do you have any input from the town side?
So we pushed back, it's on the agenda, but we pushed back the town meeting and town election. It's possible that we have to push those dates back again. I'm hearing concerning reports over whether or not we will get the state aid for this fiscal year that we're supposed to receive as a town. And the projections for next year, I would say, are going to change our budget picture as a town and probably as a district and as our school committee as well. So I'm not sure what to do about that until we get further down the line.
Okay.
I actually have two other things to, I apologize, two things I forgot to mention. The Halifax grant was submitted for technology, and that, if assuming it's approved, will provide us $37,000 for technology. And if you recall, we did have to eliminate some items from Steve Pello's proposal. So this will help to retain some of those items in terms of technology. And I apologize, I forgot to mention the memorandums of agreement that you approved tonight will all need to be updated to reflect the new law that went into effect April 1st with regarding care. So we're in the process of incorporating that language into all of our memorandums of agreement. And once that language has been changed, I will be sending it out to the chairs to review and also to union presidents to review as well. You may recall that all of our agreements were due for review on April 7th or 6th, most of them, because that was the initial closure timeline. This second round will last until about May 4th, and that's designed specifically because we don't know what new language will be in terms of regulations or laws or any updates from the state or the Department of Education. So we may be looking at not only one additional MOA for each bargaining unit that has presented MOAs, but even an additional one if we close school longer than May 4th. But we don't anticipate any problems, just updating to comply with regulatory language that as it comes in.
Okay. And we also have, we also will have a bunch of like policy meetings and things that we need to do in regards to updating all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. All right. Well, the last thing I have on the agenda is just reminding everybody of some dates. Before I do that and close out the meeting, does anybody have anything else to say? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Well, I have to say it was nice seeing you all for a brief amount of time. And I appreciate the fact that we've all been pretty good about staying in contact with each other. And I am very grateful for the fact that we all have the kind of relationship where we can have open lines of communication, because I think that just makes us better as a committee and a community and an administration and as a whole. And so I just want to thank everybody for their cooperation during this time and patience and understanding. So I appreciate that from everybody. And so the last thing I have is, as Gordon alluded to, we have town meeting, which has been changed to June 15th at 7:30. And the town election has been changed to June 20th. Obviously, that's all day. And our next school committee meeting is scheduled for May 11th. That'll be at 6 p.m. And I guess it's to be determined whether or not we're going to be together physically or we're going to be doing it just like we are now. I guess regarding that, I just have one quick question. When the meeting is like, quote, posted, on there is the link for public to join and participate, I'm assuming. I didn't even ask, but I'm assuming that that's part of the...
We had included that in particular because we had a school choice public hearing.
Yep. Okay.
So if that's something we want to continue to do regardless, we can certainly do that.
I mean, I think in just in the name of transparency, I don't see why there's any reason why we can't put it out there and ask parents to be part of the conversation if they feel like they want or need to be, you know?
I agree.
Okay,
We will continue to include that information on the posting.
awesome. All right. So with that being said, I guess that we just need a motion to adjourn and we're good to go.
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Paul.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Good night, everybody. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Lauren. You too.